What is poppin', everybody? And as we jump into, I think it's week 5, but I don't know. Week 5 episode of Midweek High Vibe Conversations. I'm like, oh, we can jump into love. And then I looked at my cup and I'm like, of course. For anybody who is new to the show, I'm Kerry Lewis, and I'm here with my amazing co-host, Drew McCaughey, aka Drew Mac, because it's a lot easier for me and I don't have to think about saying that. And we are both gifted with the presence of another amazing person whose name is much easier for me to say, interestingly enough, Yanko Yankov. So, guys, what's up?
What's happening?
Living it up.
I am just happy that I'm able to come back for a second episode and vibe with you people. It's wonderful. Like me, like yourself, have a cup of coffee, but this is a cold brew. I love the taste of cold brew instead of hot coffee in a hot day. So I'm in the same boat as you are. How about you, Drew?
I just stick with water. I'm not a coffee guy.
I know.
I don't need it.
Listen, one day maybe. I quit coffee, but I have to tell you that was the worst 3 months of my life. So anyway, I love the taste of coffee. But yeah, first off, thanks so much for being here, Yanko. It's always a gift and a pleasure and a privilege. And before we jumped on live, we were talking about Lionsgate, which goes right over my head, y'all. For anybody out there, right? We all have different paths that lead us to the same place. And I think it's so important to highlight that because I surround myself with people who their journeys are so very different than mine, and yet we're all just coming home. So Lionsgate, wanna elaborate, one of you fine gentlemen, so that I know what you're talking
about? So basically, it's just a planetary alignment that it opens up, happens once every year on 8/8. This year it happens to fall on 8/8 with the universal year of 8. 2024 equals 8. So it's just a more powerful, potent, abundance, prosperity type energy. And everything amplifies. So all of the prosperity, abundance that energy brings on 8/8 and in the year, universal year 8, it's really, really amplified. I've been feeling it as an 8/8 baby. So I've been dealing with it for years. I've been really feeling this energy. And so it's required me to really do a lot of inner work. And a lot of people are struggling with it because they're not keeping up with that energy. And it's, when we're talking about energy, we're flowing energy all the time. If that energy is really high, you're not going to feel so good sometimes because you're trying to calibrate to it. You're trying to get adjusted to it. And it requires you to go in and do some energy work, do some cleansing, do some clearing of old energy that no longer serves you anymore, and allow higher frequency energies to come in. And man, I've been doing a lot of it, and it's fun. I mean, I love it. But it starts with grounding, Carrie, which we learned not too long ago for you. So yeah, that's really, if you're feeling funky, get into doing some personal energy work, meditate, do whatever whatever works for you to get in and try to do consciously clear out some of that old energy that's just wanting to go away, and allow this high frequencies to come to you. How about you, Yanko? How are you doing?
To me, it's a little bit different. I'm having a hard time sleeping. I'm getting all buzzing and vibrating, and I wake up in the middle of the night and my entire body vibrates. I'm like, oh, what's going on? It's too much. But my take on that is that
vibrating body sounds like a really good time to me. Just saying.
It is.
I don't know if you're conscious of your body and different parts of your body. It's weird if you hear it's vibrating or your skull is vibrating and different parts. But when everything vibrates, it's like, I don't know how to describe it though. It's like you're taking your body in smaller pieces that are going like And it's like that.
It's interesting you say that because anybody who knows me for any amount of time knows that I'm a serious student of uh, David R. Hawkins, and I've read all his work, and a lot of it talks about his experience to enlightenment, and he talks extensively about vibrating and energy being so powerful that it almost felt like it burned him, right? And that he couldn't even get into meditative states anymore because the energy was so powerful. And then, of course, in Eastern spiritual studies, if you study that, a lot of the yogis and Buddhists and really the old uh thought leaders, teachers, that's why you practice, so you cultivate and you get your body to a place where it can sustain that energy without feeling so overwhelming. But I want to bring up something that I love that you said, Drew and Yanko, and talking about energy and going in and doing the inner work. So yesterday I was at Imagine Dragons with my 7-year-old niece and a bunch of other people, and I knew their music, but holy crap, do I have a new appreciation, because the singer is absolutely on purpose and in passion, and he made it a point to go into the whole crowd, genuinely connect with people, and use that stage as a platform for feeling your feelings. He essentially shared with the concert that as a kid he was suffocating, he couldn't speak truth to his feelings, his thoughts, and that music was that outlet. And then he challenged people in the audience and said, listen, I've been seeing a therapist since I was 12 years old to help teach me to express my energy, my feelings. He used it as feelings, and then encouraged the people at the concert to do the same. And I thought, specifically with the group I was with, many of those people not giving themselves permission to feel their feelings or honor their experience. I thought it was a really profound message and poignant. But it also goes to what Drew said, and I feel very strongly about this too. We both sit and enjoy a lot. I mean, you're hard pressed to catch me like bleh, right? Because I do cultivate joyful energy. But I also think it's imperative that we continue to impress upon people, particularly when they see me and they see my life and they think it's all a perfect, happy, good. No, I cry almost every day. There are days when I sob. It's because for whatever reason, something comes up within me. I sometimes can't even name it. And then I just know that, oh, that's just something I got to release. So I'm going to feel it and I'm going to let it go. And then I go right back to experiencing joy. And I would even venture to say I feel thankful and in appreciation for the moments of tears, the moments of rage, the moments of popping off. I popped off at a guy yesterday smoking in my face. And I'm kind, but I'm like, yo, dude, really? And he's like, what, I can't smoke here? I'm like, you can smoke, just not blowing it in my face. Feeling joy for that because it gave me an opportunity to be like, oh, you know what? Maybe I could have handled that differently or whatever. So doing the work and not just thinking that you're going to feel good without addressing what's internal, because that's not reality. Like, you actually raise your vibrational state by allowing yourself to feel your feelings. And that's why I loved what this performer shared with the audience yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, the emotions are just indicators of where you're operating. There's nothing wrong with the emotion itself, right?
Yeah.
It's just an energy, and we want to experience all these emotions. There's a couple of reasons. One of them is just to know the difference, right? So you can catch it. I mean, that's part of living. That's part of what we do, and because those emotions, what people refer to as negative, I don't refer to them as negative. They're just energy. But what they don't feel good, so that obviously people will call it negative. But those are just growth opportunities. That's all they are. They're just opportunities to go, oh, I don't want that. Well, what is it I do want? Oh, I want more of this, and shift your focus, right? So it's all part of the process. But again, that takes practice to be able to develop that life skill, and that it is a skill. It is a skill.
Mm-hmm. What are your
Yeah,
thoughts,
and
Michael?
in that topic, the night before I had like experience when I'm feeling this fear energy around me and everything, and I'm curious about to find out what it is about and where it's coming from and everything. And this time I was like, nah, I'm just gonna sit and enjoy. So I don't even care. You know what I mean? Like I'm not even going to investigate.
Yeah, but the thing is that you caught it.
Yeah.
So
No, I
that's,
know,
you know,
but
that's fine. It's like, okay, I caught it. That's cool.
no, I know.
Well,
I know.
and so I think, I love that. And I think it's so important. I'm kind of the person who rallies the masses who are still stuck in that overthinking, subconscious patterning, conditioning, and behaviors. Allowing yourself to feel that, but also just being like, what's coming up for me, because we're just conditions, patterns, habits, behaviors. So for instance, like Yanko said, he experienced fear. For me, yesterday I had a moment of experiencing lack and fear, right? And I looked at it, and that's an embedded pattern of behavior. I grew up with a family who was like, you got to work super hard, you have to do all this. Like, I grew up in fear, hustle, all that mentality. And so that's 44 years, right, of like this narrative, and it's seeped around me because the world operates in lack. But I caught it, and I'm like, yeah, right, you're full of crap. And I kept moving.
Yeah.
And as a result, right, and this is where I think all three of us want people to get to, or at least I am vehement about this. When I know I'm abundant, I experience abundance. From that one moment of belief that I had lack, to immediately catching it and saying, well, that's crap, I'm not buying into that. I got 7 tickets, 6 of which were free. One was like super on the cheap, to bring all of these people to a concert and have a really joyful experience. If I sat in that energy of lack, of, oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to get this, I don't know what's going to work, this isn't going to work, I probably wouldn't have been able to take the kids to the concert.
They would have showed up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to teach people on a fundamental level. Like, yes, I say I'm a mental health and addiction recovery coach teacher, true, because if you are messy, or if you continue to stay attached to ideologies like you're mentally ill, or you have mental health issues and you will for the rest of your life, or you're stuck in addiction for the rest of your life, yeah, guess what? You get to keep that, and that will present itself for you. So I'm really passionate about helping people recognize that doesn't have to be your reality. But the reason why is eventually I want them to move so far beyond that to where Drew, Yanko, and I operate is, not only do you not have to associate with the fact that you're miserable every day, or you are struggling with addiction, but you then get to manifest whatever it is you're looking to experience in any given moment. And that does take work. And sometimes you do need doctors to help you, and sometimes you do need medication. But the end goal should always be to come back to self and then learn yourself, so you can then co-create from a place of love and not fear.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I wanted to bring up today, and this is probably a good place for it, is how people set limits on themselves for certain things. And it's a habit, it's conditioning, it's all the stuff. So I ran a little experiment, and I didn't say anything about it, I just ran it. I took those word games where you have a bunch of letters, and you pick, and the instructions are the first 3 words you see, and this one was, the first 3 words you see are the emotional frequencies or emotional energies you're attracting, something like that, right? So I posted that, and I said, games changed, because there was a plethora of really positive, high vibe emotions that people could see in this particular grid. So I said, games changed. Now you're free to list all of these emotional frequencies, these positive emotional frequencies that you see. 95% of the people that responded to it listed 3.
Ooh.
They limited themselves to 3. And so I said, well, wait a minute. I looked at it and said, there's about 25 of them here. Why wouldn't you go get them all? That brings in a lot of momentum for you. So that's sort of an indicator to me how people just put limits, allow themselves to be limited by suggestions. Or there was two people that saw a whole bunch of them, and I know
Yep.
who they are or where they come from, and I'm like, of course they did, because they allowed themselves to see all of them,
Yep.
right? And that's what we're talking about here. Allow yourself to operate without limits, limitless. And the more you can do that, the more things show up for you. It's just the way it works.
Yeah,
Well, I kind of feel like maybe it's because most people are not even like be able to keep their attention to one space for that long. Because now a lot of the stuff trains your mind, especially in social media, to get that quick
Mm-hmm.
endorphins and keep scrolling 2 seconds kind of thing. So like if you're sitting in a, because like I've seen your posts and they're really engaging, and I'm just thinking that if somebody sits there, I'll be surprised if they got to three. Because like one, you'll be like, okay, it's a win. I got one. Let's move on and scroll to the next one. You know what I mean? So it may not be like a um, thing. It might be more of a training or a habit that people do go to.
Well, it is. That's
And it
exactly what
goes
it
to
is.
relate to the same thing as Kerry was saying, that
Yeah.
how do you change if you're not even aware that there needs to be a change, because you're so comfy with the habits and the loops or whatever, and everything that gets you out of that comfort zone, it's actually a stressor for you. Like say you're going to work and the road it's closed that you're taking every day, and now you're on stress. You're like, oh my god, I don't know how I'm gonna get to work, which roads to take, and all that, and that stressed you out of your comfy lifestyle. And this is why being uncomfortable brings growth, because you're expanding. So next time you'll be more comfortable if the road is closed, because you already been in that situation. So it's not going to be like, oh, I don't want to be uncomfortable. It'll be like, big deal. I've done it many times, and you grew up and you go through that and you go through the next thing. So I don't know. Me working with people specifically with deeper unconscious programs that are running in their mind they're not even aware of. It's hard to tell somebody, here there is an issue, if you don't see the issue, and if you don't even know there is an issue. To you, everything it's perfect. And I'll give you another example. If you're abroad in an abusive home, and this is your perfect, you being beat up, and you have a schedule of like what time your parents beat you up and how many hours you spend in the closet or whatever. Then you go to a nice loving family outside, and they're like, here you have your own room and this and that, and this is unusual. Now you're out of your comfort zone, and so this is uncomfortable for you. You're like, why? I like to be beat up and be on my comfort zone, because I know from this time to this time this is where I'm going to be at. So and that also brings me into thinking that a lot of the books are saying that reality is subjective, because like everyone experiences their reality. So if this is your reality, that'll be uncomfortable for you. So what's uncomfortable to one, it could be comfortable for somebody else. Does that make sense? I went on
No,
a
you're
tangent a
spot
little
on.
bit.
Well, you're spot on, so think about it. What is the greatest addiction of humanity? Suffering. It's suffering, because that's what we know. We know to live in fear, because that has been the most pervasive conditioning throughout time because of biology and like how we have evolved. And so now it's, to your point, putting yourself in uncomfortable situations to grow and expand. I'll tell you, I tell my family, my twin sister in particular, sorry, I'm putting you on blast, that I love her all the time. We were not taught to say, I love you. We weren't taught to hug. In fact, we were conditioned to compete against each other, especially the girls, like one up you and stuff. So even to this day, there are times that I catch myself really struggling to text, I love you. And yet I continuously do that, because I know it's just a condition and it's not real. And it's not one that I want to subscribe to. The important thing that I had to realize and continue to realize is my job isn't to have an expectation around how she responds, because she has her own experience and she may still be okay with that dynamic, and that's okay. I'm not here to sell her on a different one. I just know for me it doesn't feel good anymore, and so I extend myself knowing that in time it will be secondhand. I will naturally do it regardless of whether or not it's received or reciprocated. But I want to highlight 2 points to the point of limitlessness. I've never been a big Olympic person, but Nana is, and we've been following this kid Noah Lyles from the U.S., who is a track star. Talk about the epitome of limitless thinking. His zone of genius is the 200 meters, right? But he spoke into existence that he was gonna win not only the 200 but the 100, and he continuously put it out there, put it out there, put it out there. He now has won the 100, and as of right now in the prelims, he beat out everybody in the prelims for the 200, and he will win it. And I'm going to tell you why. It's a mindset. If you look at him, if you watch how he shows up on camera, if you look at it's, and everybody can say, oh, he's cocky. No, no, no. If you really look at him, you look at his, it is a belief. And not only that, I watch him encourage everybody else. He literally turned to a British athlete who he knew had the capability of beating the British record. And when this British athlete was playing small, he's like, please, why are you going to play small? You know we got this. And I'm like, yes, boom, you nailed it. Absolutely. Right. So it is so, so important that we do recognize that we do place limits on ourselves, but that we have to give ourselves permission to at least get curious, even if you don't know how to get there. Right. Like in spiritual scripture, they say, walk blindly. Right. You're not going to see with physical sight. It's with spiritual sight. And you have to you do it afraid. On my vision board it says do everything with courage and love. Courage and love. It doesn't say I know what the outcome is. It just means I'm going to do it from a place of love, even if it feels a little icky, because I'm not used to it before. I haven't done it, so of course I'm going to have a little bit of anxiety around it, energy that's like but I'm going to do it. And as long as it's from a place of love, I know that I'm growing, I know I'm expanding, and I know I am creating that limitless life for myself. And that is truly what we all have the capability of doing when we give ourselves permission to question our beliefs, to question whether we want to sit in suffering, to actually look at somebody and be like, do you make me happy? Like, I mean, like, do we experience joy together? And give yourself permission to answer honestly. And in this day and age, most people aren't willing, or they don't have the tools to be able to do that.
That's it. They haven't learned the tools and or haven't access to tools or had access to the tools, because the tools will help you get there. I mean, the tools, and there's lots of tools. So,
can I add something real quick before I forget?
Yeah.
So usually, and this is me, I don't expect somebody outside to make me happy. It's more of a sharing space. I don't look and say, will you make me happy? It's more of a, would you like to share happiness with me? Because if I'm happy and you're happy, it's like having a shared experience with shared rave party. I'm in the rave party. I'm happy. You want to share the party with me so we can both be happy in the same time?
Yeah.
I'll be right back. I'm going to turn off real quick because my little guy's coming. Continue on. I'll come back.
Okay.
Did you want to add something, Drew?
Mindset. Beautiful topic, because it's so funny. I just had a conversation yesterday with somebody, and we were talking about operating at elevated states of consciousness, and the subject of mindset came up, and Tom Brady came up. Now, that guy was the epitome of what you're talking about with your track star. He knew when to flip the switch.
Yep.
He would just, okay, so I've been operating here for most of the game, because nobody can hold it all the way up here all the time, really, right? So I've been operating here, but okay, now it's fourth down. I need to get this first down. Flip the switch. I'm in a different state, and I'm going to see stuff nobody else sees. and he allowed himself to do that, and he was a master at it, an absolute master at it. So, you know, everybody has access to it. It's a matter of whether or not you wanna access it for yourself. It's really a simple
It's,
question.
you know what? I would even go a little bit further though. It's not about whether you want to, because everybody wants to.
Right.
It's going through the growing pains to be able to access it, because look at Michael Jordan and look at Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant's another one, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I love Kobe because when you listen to him, he taught everything in life was a lesson. It was much like what you said, Drew, like the contrast. He never took it personal. It always came from a place of curiosity, whether it was, engaging with his family, right? Obviously, he was known to make mistakes because he's human and all that, but looking at where his mindset was in growing, or whether it's on the court. And because of that, he was able to create an unshakable, unfailing mindset that allowed him to be excellent in his craft. And so it takes, I mean, look at guys, discipline or devotion to self. I hated the word discipline. So if you don't like that word, I don't care. Toss it out the window. Find a word that reminds you that doing those things, like if you know that you think negatively because you've been conditioned to do so, right? Or if you think in an energy that makes you feel icky, however you want to decide how to see it, then, and that's your default, right? So what's that mean? You plug in, wash a quilt, and it's going to do all the cycle for washing the quilt because that's what it knows to do. If you know your brain knows to think that way, then you create disciplines to counter how you have been conditioned to perform. So for me, it's visuals. I have tattoos all over me. Feel the fear and do it anyway. To thine own self be true. She's mad, but she's magic. There's no lie in her fire. Then I have them everywhere. So it combats that conditioning. That's one. Or a discipline. Hire somebody. Get Drew's activation. Go see Yanko and have him help you with a belief that you know you don't want, and then pluck it out. Or come see me and get gutted like a fish because there's no filter, and I'm going to fillet you really quickly so that hopefully you start to examine stuff that doesn't serve you. Regardless, you have to recognize that you're in a place that doesn't feel good, doesn't bring you joy. And then you have to take small, consistent, repeatable action to get to a place where you achieve what Tom Brady, Noah Lyles, Kobe Bryant, Drew Mack, Kerry Lewis, Yanko, and a plentitude of other people have achieved, because we didn't stop when it felt icky sticky. We said, even though I don't want to look at that visual, I'm going to anyway, because I know that so many people are telling me that on the other side of that is expansion and growth.
Yeah, and there's so many people waking up to the fact that this isn't about worry, frustration, overwhelm, and fear. This is not how we're supposed to be here living. And that's, again, it's just been conditioning. It's really been conditioning. I love what you did with your tattoos. That's in neuro linguistic programming. That's called anchoring. And all you have to do is fire your anchor, and you get right back to your state. So there's all sorts of little tricks and tips and strategies and techniques that people can utilize, and they just have to find them. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in this day and age, it's not like you can't, I think it was Elon Musk who said, somebody asked him, do you think we'll ever have a day and age when there's cyborgs? And he's like, what do you mean? We're already in it.
Yeah.
Well, already cyborgs, yeah.
Right, but it's true. We have, like, this is the day and age of information, right? And I do believe in connection. So I'm going to keep it real. Like, I think that you want to engage with somebody that you have a genuine connection with. Like, that feels really good because that person can at least give you, suggestions as to where to seek information, but at least get curious to seek the information, because nowadays you can't say you can't find it. It's available absolutely everywhere. And I did want to circle back to something you said, Yanko, because it highlights a topic that I was having with a couple of people yesterday. We were talking about fraud and how so many people are constantly experiencing fraud, whether they're, I don't know, credit card or whatever. When I took my daughter to get her passport, we get it, pay for it, whatever. All of a sudden, she texts me because I gave them her information. Hey, mom, we got to put 18 cents on because something's wrong with the address. And I was able to discern, right? I stopped. I was like, well, I'm going to go to the post office. Sure enough, it's fraud. To Yanko's point, guys, we are inundated with information overload. Our nervous system is constantly in an elevated state. It is not in homeostasis, it's not calm. So, to his point, where it's like, oh, you see 3 words and you're like, got my hit, boom, boom, boom. If that's how you operate, you are susceptible to fraud. Why? Because what happens is you get an alert. Oh my God, I need to get this. And then you're like, oh, right? Because you're operating from that quick hit instinct instead of taking a minute to breathe and say, do I need to instantaneously take action? And most people just take action. And that's why I believe that fraud exists and why it's so pervasive, because we're so in a heightened state that we don't pause to take a moment to then look further. We just hit the button and then there we go. And then we feel victimized. But it's just, again, it's a habit. It's practicing to step back, take in deep breaths, breathe. To Drew's point, ground, anchor. It takes seconds. Just ground into this and then ask yourself, is this something I need to take action on, or do I need more information?
Yeah, you've got more people operating around beta. That's the fight or flight.
That's exactly what I was gonna say.
So,
Because when you're in that mode, you're not your logic. It's off. There's no logic. You're in doing mode. Like the tiger, it's behind you. You're running for your life. There's no logic.
yeah, exactly.
That's why it works.
Yeah. So, and that's why it's so important for people to understand what those are, and if you can get yourself into alpha and operate from alpha, which is not that big of a difference, really. When you look at the frequencies, it's not that big of a leap. If you just operated from alpha more often, first of all, you'd feel better, number one. Number two, your body would operate at a much more efficient manner, because fight or flight is nowhere that you want to live all the time, because your immune system and everything else that's going on, your neuro programming is go all out of whack, because it's just constantly going on. Get yourself into alpha and try to stay there as much as you can. Just take that step and you're going to feel better. Your body's going to operate at a higher level. Your thought processes are going to be actually faster and more logical than you are when you're in beta. So, because now beta is just going by instinct. You're not actually even thinking.
Yep.
So it's just so much. There's so much information out there for people to understand from neuroscience. Like, science has taken Carrie and I, and Yanko, I'm pretty sure you sort of come from this mindset. We come from a more scientific oriented background. Not that I trust the science, but I like to see things that have been studied and third party study, placebo study, whatever. But we have, from technology, we have so many things that these people running actual scientific studies on the brain and the body and the frequencies and all that stuff that they can measure that we've never had before, and people don't even know about it. They haven't taken the time to learn about it. For example, I was watching a show the other day, and they were doing an experiment with a guy who could actually put himself into a state, which is what we can do, but they were measuring photons coming out of his body when he put himself into a high vibrational state, and his hands lit up. You know how they say, that person lights up? Well, you're literally lighting up. You're literally amplifying the photons coming out of your body. Well, most people have no idea that that's happening, right? So, yeah, get curious. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. And I'm like you, I love science. And somebody sent me a neuroscientist. They did a study, and I want to say it was in Germany or Switzerland. I'm not sure. And they put these individual people in a vacuum. So it was void of any energy. Void of any energy at all. And then they were able to stick this person in this like place and measure their vibration. Do you know what calibrated at the highest vibration? And it was not love, it was authenticity. And this is why I tell people, show up fully expressed. Like, man, if you were to actually see me in my day to day, guarantee you would be like, yo, you are bananas. I was at the gym yesterday and some guy walks up to me. He's like, I was going to introduce you to my wife, but you were like vibing. What were you singing? And the reason why is, and I shared this with Drew about the Hawks the other day in my networking meeting, right? But when you are so fully expressed, unapologetically you, in love, without shame, without fear, you are magnetizing at a vibration that eclipses love. And guys, I freaking love people, but I love myself more. And truly, honestly, I could have the best damn time with myself. And that to me is the gift I give to the world. And I don't worry about the good opinions of others because, sure, we've been conditioned to be like, oh my God, that girl's running down the street and she's twirling like she's a ballerina and singing like she's on stage. She's cuckoo. Meanwhile, I'm doing it and I'm like, this is the greatest thing ever. And I look up and there's 9 hawks and I'm like, got it. And that's what science has done to me, is because I studied the theology, right? I'm not the metaphysics master that Drew is and Yanko is. I can't tell you about astrology and stuff, but you want me to go down a spiritual path of all of these great ancient texts, I can. I can also tell you that science bridges theology, and they're not like this. They're like
intertwined.
and then you experience just it's indescribable.
How can you be separated when everything is one?
Yeah. Yeah.
How can you be separated if not if but when everything it's one? You're
True.
not a separate being. You're not in this world by mistake. You're part of the world. Everything is. This is part of the world. Everything is. So how can you be separate? It's just yeah. But no, to your point, and sometimes I do the same thing. Trust by verify. I still go by that saying, okay, this is what they say, but I want to verify it myself. I want to go through the process. And that brings me into this thinking of, or maybe it was a story when somebody went to the doctor and say, hey, doctor, this is what I have. Those are my symptoms. And the doctor wrote him a prescription, given to him, send him home. Then he comes back a week later and says, doctor, nothing helps. And he says, well, what happened? He says, doctor, I read the prescription every day, but nothing is happening. So he said, well, didn't you fill the prescription and did the work? He's like, no, but I was just reading it every day and nothing was happening. So it's the same thing. You read all these books and everything. You got the information, but you're not verifying. You're not doing anything. So what do you expect to happen?
I saw a great story about right along this topic just today. Well, just before we got on, a first grade teacher, first day of class, decided that she wanted to have the kids get up and say, this is my favorite food, this is my favorite toy, this is my favorite whatever. And then all the kids that had the similar thought, like that's my favorite food, that's my favorite toy, whatever, go stand with that person, raise your hand, go stand with that person. And then they'd go around the room and they'd have these different groups of all these kids that realized in their first day how much similar they are to each other, how much they have in common on their very first day in school. What a great exercise. Because too many people are teaching this separateness. And that was, it just dawned on me, it just came up right now. It's like, what an amazing teacher. Now that's a teacher.
Well, do you know of the teacher? I can't recall her name. She was in the 70s. But anyway, she actually performed this very controversial practice with her students to teach about racism. But what she did was she conditioned these kids each day. So in the beginning of the class, she would be like, all the kids with blue eyes are really bad. They're reckless and they're blah blah blah. And then so you saw all the kids with blue eyes curdle in shame. And then the next day she's like, all the kids with brown hair are bad. But the whole point, so this was over a week, and the whole point was to teach about systemic racism in the 70s and how if you hang on to an ideology, not only how divisive and fear-based it is, but what it actually does to the individuals who she was highlighting each day. And I thought, that's a hell of a teacher, because she just showcased in like 6-year-olds or 7-year-olds just how fast you can program a brain either towards fear or towards love, depending on what it is you're feeding them.
Yeah.
Well, not only that, but it takes the spontaneity out of, like, kids are spontaneous. They don't have any programming. They don't even have like ego yet when they're small. Like, they don't have identity. They don't say me. It says I or whatever. And, like, even when they speak, like, I'm watching my little guy go through the same process. So some of the studies show that, before they're enrolled to preschool and everything, they're all like solving problems a lot faster because they're just using spontaneous whatever happens in the moment. And then when they do the same test with the same group of people at age 14, they found out that, solving problems went down to like 70%. And then after, graduating high school into college, it goes down to like 30% or something in between, because now you have ideas and now you think, you're like, okay, I know what's up. Like, I know this and know that. And then you don't have this outside of the box thinking. So, yeah, it's part of the same thing, programming and preconditioning.
Well, that's why in spiritual scriptures they say stay childlike, stay in childlike wonder. And it doesn't mean, I mean, I think it does actually mean being goofy, or at least Fanana and I, but it means suspending what you think you know. And actually, in almost every meditation that I create or in conversations and talks that I hold, I always start with suspend what you think you know. Leave whatever you expect this experience to be at the table. Leave whatever preconceived, because when you do open up to new possibilities. And to your point about the kids, Yanko, when I'm in play, when I'm just whatever, doing whatever, I get the most insights. In fact, you and me were laughing and joking when we were like, hey, let's do a show together. Same as Drew, right? Like, there was no, how can I get to more people and share? No,
No,
it
it was.
wasn't like that.
It was. You want to do a show? Yep.
Okay, cool. But that's the point. It's like because we do operate from a place of we're not overthinking. And to your point, Yanko, what I love that you said, and you used the story about the prescription, right? And I see so many spiritual teachers lost in this. We get lost in the dogma, in the information. It like same as mental health practitioners and providers, doctors and stuff. We get so stuck in the information that we don't discern, we don't really apply it. And so it never becomes wisdom, and it doesn't come from an intuition or knowing. It's just what information you took in. And that is problematic because, I mean, even all the great spiritual texts, what's the one common issue that they all have? They're written by man. And what does man have? Ego. So it's not from complete discernment. It is a perspective that was taken from a teaching and then plopped on the page. And that's why I tell people, don't take anything that Drew, Yanko, and myself say at face value. I don't want you to. In fact, That's silly. What I do say, get curious, see what feels good for you, apply some of the things that we've all practiced that has worked for us in your own life, and then see what serves you, because you're the ultimate wisdom. You have all the answers. We don't have the answers for you. You have the answers. We're just guides. We're framework to help you find your way to joy, to freedom, to abundance, to limitlessness.
Mhm. Yeah, we're just conduits. We're just guides. We're conduits. We're coaches. That's
No,
my,
I don't even consider myself that way. I mean, you see the hypnotist thing because I sort of do hypnosis. I mean, but all hypnosis is self hypnosis. The person does it, and I just kind
yeah,
of, it's shared experience. So if it's joyful for me, you want to join the party, come on in. We'll have fun together. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
You want to, hum or sing or do a singing ball, something. Let's get together and have some fun. Maybe we'll do a drum circle, a gold drum, and you drum, and we'll go, oh, jump around, we'll do crazy stuff, and we'll have fun.
And it's so funny. Like, you hear me speak extensively about labels, and I do agree. But I was sitting here earlier because I'm constantly looking at my title, Addiction to Mental Health. And when you really look at what I teach, it's so much more expansive than what the average person would associate with that. And I was going through it and stuff. And, you hear all this language, oh, coach is overused and guide, blah, blah. And I'm like, you know what? For the common person, I hands down, unequivocally, and I can say Drew is too, we're coaches. And you know why? Because a coach not only helps identify areas that you don't see for yourself, we also hold you accountable. We sit here, hey, did you press play on the activation today? You didn't? Okay, well, maybe you might want it because, I gave it to you because that's the thing you agreed to do. And you call out things that aren't serving people. And so I'm totally okay saying I'm a coach. I really am. I keep coming back to this because we all need coaches. We all need people to be like, I mean, you do it, Yanko, for me all the time. You do it, Drew, for me all the time.
Yeah, and it can go the same way. And
Yeah.
technically, I
So,
can be
I mean,
called,
it's
yeah, I
trivial.
can be called coaching hypnotist. I can be called hypnotist. Some people call themselves hypnotherapists or all kinds of things. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like the name is not important. When somebody comes to me, they say, how can you help me get out of this? They don't care about the semantics. They don't care about the interlying whatever. They know you know the shortcut and they want the results. They come in and say, how do you take me from this to this? I don't care how you do it, but this is my goal and I want you to get me to my goal. Does that make sense?
It does, but I'm just going to say, like, again, to the average person, they need context. And I think that, like, this is just my personal opinion, right? When I associate coach, right, I look at the people who, guess what, helped call out the pain points in Tom Brady's game. I look at the people who helped Kobe Bryant recognize that his legs weren't strong enough. And so it's being able to make it accessible because we're ethereal. All of us are light. We get it, but like it needs to be more concrete. It needs to be, oh, that person's going to be like, yo, get up and drink the damn water. And that's what I do.
Yeah,
Or hey, press play on the activation and feel better. That's what Drew does.
No,
Or
and to your point, it's good to have a mirror outside because a lot of the times you're not even aware of like what's going on. Like to your
yes,
point, if somebody sees that your legs are not strong enough or whatever, you want somebody to bring it out to your attention, to reflect it back to you and say, hey, this is what I think. You don't have to take 100%, but if you entertain this thought, maybe see if that takes you anywhere. You know
yeah.
what I mean? Like,
yeah.
yeah.
So we just talked about it this whole show. The most highly trained athletes have several coaches, not just one. They pay several coaches to look at various aspects of whatever they're doing. So yeah, I mean, coaching, a good coach, what a coach does is say, you want to improve on this aspect of you. Here's what you're doing now. Here's what you can do to improve on that aspect. I just use one example of somebody that I was working with just a little while ago, and she, had a situation. She's really doing well with the program, blah blah blah. And I said, okay, so here's the next step for you. Focus on grounding all day long. Just today, for sure, whenever something comes up, just ground yourself. Just give yourself permission to ground. And our next call, she's like, that worked like a charm. Mm-hmm. That was perfect. It just fixed everything for me that I was looking to have fixed. Like, perfect. That's what we do. Yeah. Right? We pick that stuff up because we know this work. So we know how to point you in the right direction for you. I'm not teaching you, giving you me. I'm giving you. Right? Yeah. That's it.
And this is what, as we get to wrap up, and I'll leave you guys with your chance to leave a final thought. But this is what I'm going to leave for you. Worship no idol. That's true. And what I mean by that is, I don't worship or think that Drew Yanko, the President of the United States, Gandhi is better than me. I also don't think they're less than. But I do recognize that with people who have wisdom or skills and knowledge around something that I may not be as versed in, I certainly respect and take in the information, i.e., Drew helping me with like my physical health so that I can experience joy not only mentally and energetically, but more physically, right? So don't get caught up on worshiping anybody either, because so often I see that we worship a priest or we worship a superstar or whatever, but rather take what they know, their wisdom, discern for yourself, and recognize that you're just as powerful and worthy as they just are a mirror to help you dial in a specific area that you're not as versed in.
Yep. Well put. I would say, be curious. Be curious about everything. And also try to work on your awareness muscle. And in particular, your emotional frequency awareness muscle. Just try to catch yourself. Don't judge it. Just try to catch it when it comes up, how it came up. And that's a simple little exercise you can do. Oh, I'm frustrated right now. Why am I frustrated? Don't dig into it. Just go, I'm frustrated right now. Okay, well, I don't have to think that. So anything that you can do to build your awareness of where you are operating at any point in time of the day is a really, really good practice. So I'll leave it at that.
And I'll say thank you for having me on the show for a second time.
You're welcome anytime. We love
I really enjoyed vibing with you, and I'm hoping that our audience also vibe with us and the energy and everything, and maybe enjoy the rest of the Lionsgate's energies that are coming in, and absorb, enjoy, look for abundance, help each other, and be human, have a human experience.
And do everything in love for yourself, because when you love yourself, it's impossible not to love the world. With that, we'll see you next week. Thank you so much.